Hello, my name is Alina DeVode, and I am a part of the 21st class of Roberts Fellows. I'm a current third-year student with a double major in Spanish and political science and a minor in biology. And this is my story and my leadership perspective after participating in the Roberts Fellowship program. I would like to begin by challenging you to think of what your first memory of what a leader was. And for me, I know that this is a line leader in kindergarten and in preschool. This was around the first time I've ever heard what a leader was or leadership, and these young students around 5 years of age, just kids, were in charge of setting a good example for the rest of the students. And this was my initial experience and my initial perspective, and this has shaped my idea of what a leader is. And your ideas and your experiences shape what you think a leader is. And so in Roberts Fellows, we took these ideas and we learned about leadership through deconstruction and reconstruction. We began to understand leadership through analyzing what our perspectives were, and then we challenged them and we deconstructed them. We reflected on them, we journaled weekly, and we discussed weekly in our seminars, and we tried to identify leadership where it was found, and we questioned them and challenged those ideas, and we then supplemented that with education, learning about new cultures, learning about leadership theory, and trying to rebuild an idea of what leadership really is. And so my initial perspective, shaped by my experiences, that I knew that they were shaped by my experiences, but those were all that I had known. I didn't know the experiences of others. I did not know a ton of other perspectives. I had a very limited worldview, especially I think looking back now. And when I thought of leadership before, it was always connected to my times in marching band. I marched in college, or my times in robotics, and during my college years, I helped in coaching my old high school robotics team. And so I have served roles there, and those are where my biggest concepts came from. And these concepts were that leadership is living by example, and that you are always being watched and being almost in a fishbowl, the idea of living in a fishbowl, that people are watching you and seeing what you do, and that as a leader you need to make decisions for the betterment of the group, and that it's not about controlling others or holding any sort of power over them, but is more about empowering them and moving towards a collective goal. And so in seminar we began with identifying our ideas. So what does a leader look like? Who can be a leader? What traits do leaders have? What skills do they have? What actions do they take? Are they extroverted? Are they always outgoing? Are they brave and bold? Are they loud? Are they taking control? What do they do? Are they always willing to move forward? Do they get things done? Like what is a leader? And so we were really pulling all of our ideas together collectively, and we drew a stick figure in class and tried to identify all the things that we thought of as a group. But then came the part where we challenged our ideas. We began questioning what it means to be a leader and what a leader looks like. All of the ideas that we had, we started thinking differently about them. We were challenged by our advisors and pushed to think outside of that and outside of the lens that we saw through. And we had to think about, what does it mean to be effective as a leader? What makes them effective? Do they always achieve goals? Do they have to have a goal to be a leader? Are they always going to be loud? Are they always extroverted? And it's a lot of questions, and learning how to disagree, which was a challenge for us. And we were so polite, and we still are, and we're all good friends, but it's hard to learn to disagree or admit that you disagree and challenge someone else's ideas. And so it was a little uncomfortable, and that was something that we definitely learned head on, is that things are going to be a little uncomfortable. But what this deconstruction of these ideas did for me is that it allowed me to analyze my own thoughts and my new ideas and think about, what am I learning? Like, what do I know different? It led me to pick apart ideas that I might not have done before. I might have questioned them before. Able to unlearn biases. It's really important to see where you might have prejudice, and deconstructing does that. And you can really get to the core, and I really got to the core of like what leadership means for me and what it does for me and my role in it. And it made room for growth and created a space for new information to come. And I was able to reflect on what is really true and remove that lens and see more. And with that, it was a little gray at times and ambiguous, and that is such an important thing that I learned, and that there are no universal truths other than that. That's it. The only universal truth is that there are none. And that there is a gray area for almost everything, and that you just have to get comfortable with uncertainty, because things do get uncertain and you don't always have a perfect answer. And that definitions are not universal, and a lot of the answers are, it depends on the context, because it's true. And so we learned about different contexts and different lenses, and this is where we learned so much more. This was our education part, and we read leadership theory, and we read about different cultures. We read books. We read the books Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, and we read Leadership Theory and Practice by Northouse, and gained all these new perspectives of what it means to be a leader. We read journal articles and theories, and we also read the history and philosophies of Asia and Japan and Taiwan and China and all these new things that we might not have known before. And it really exposed the mind to new information. And I was able to gain insight on different perspectives, context, situations that I just wasn't aware of before. And we took all of that, what we had discussed, our analyses, we took all the new information that we learned, and we tried to piece together a new idea of leadership. And where does the education material meet with the things that you believe? What were your initial ideas? Are they still applicable? What are your beliefs now? Are they different? Are they changed? What did you learn? And can you put this together again? And there isn't always a simple end definition. And I don't know if I could put together a perfect definition of leadership for you now. But this pushed me to become a better leader, reconstructing your ideas, and it's strengthening your impact of leadership and having a more sound, educated, informed perspective that you can use in your leadership skills. And so my afterwards perspective of leadership is that there are way more styles of leadership than the typical cookie cutter idea of a leader, and that cultural practices make what behavior is appropriate different in leadership. What might be appropriate and normal in here in the US is not the same, across the ocean in other countries with different cultures and different belief systems, practices. And that acting as a leader can also be a lot more subtle. It doesn't always have to be the loudest, craziest person in the room, even though I had always been that, and that you can be a leader in so many more subtle ways. And I think that I had been started to be more subtle. But I still reign true in the fact that to me, leadership is living by example. I want to live the life that I preach, and when I make decisions in a leadership role, I want to make decisions for the betterment of the group, and that I want to empower others. I do not want to have a controlling view of them, and I don't want to have the followers think that I am controlling and authoritative in a negative way. I want to make sure that I am using what I have to give others the opportunities and the skills to get to the goals that we're trying to achieve, or just move in the direction that they want to move in. I think that I've grown a lot. I think my beginning to my end has changed. I think that I have a lot more expanded view of leadership and where leadership can be found, and that you don't have to have a specific title to be a leader. It is not always the president of this or the CEO of that, and that leadership can be on a spectrum. You can have little roles and big roles and medium roles, and you can be an organizer in your community and have a small role, and it doesn't have to be global. It can be focused on where you're at. And I think that the steps of this reflective process, I think the steps are going in tandem, and that you are not going to do everything in a linear order all the time, and that you are constantly learning new things and having to go back and reanalyze them and pick them apart and deconstruct them again, and your perspective will change as you go on through different things. And I know that this reflective process is not only limited to leadership or just other abstract concepts, but to all areas of your life. We can get to the heart of our thoughts and make them stronger, not just in leadership, but everywhere. And I know that this academic year has challenged me in a lot of personal ways separate from the Roberts Fellows, but my ideas from the Roberts Fellows were applied and helped me out, and what I think of myself as a leader now has changed a lot. And so to finish this, I like to say that we can grow by challenging our ideas, deconstructing the concepts that live in our heads, and rebuilding a more intentional and educated perspective. And reflection is a key of understanding and growing, and that we need to be learning our biases and taking off our lenses to allow our ideas to change and grow and make ourselves better leaders and better people. I know that the Roberts Fellowship Program teaches participants to consider more beyond what they had imagined and step outside of their comfort zones, and that uncertainty and discomfort are inevitable. You will always find an instant where you are uncertain and maybe a little uncomfortable, and things are a little ambiguous, but that's just a part of the life. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's Roberts Fellows. Thank you so much.